Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here on our next edition of Financial Fridays here from Thimble Island Private Wealth. For those I haven't had the opportunity to meet, again, my name is Matt Fleming, a certified financial planner here with Thimble Island Private Wealth. And today, hopefully, everybody had a great holiday season and great New Year. And with New Year's, often comes resolutions. And we thought this would be a great time to talk about some maybe financial resolutions that you might be thinking about, and putting together a little bit of a program today to talk about a financial fresh start. And really the idea here is hopefully, some of these things you're already doing. If you're not, certainly some things that we can kind of help you with kind of along the way, but wanted to touch on a few things that we often encourage folks to think about, when starting the year fresh and making some of those resolutions. Fidelity put out a survey recently that showed that about 61% of people often make resolutions pertaining to their financial lives. So, a great opportunity if you haven't in the past to maybe think about that here going forward. So, hopefully over the next 20 to 25 minutes here or so, give you a couple of ideas, a couple of different ways that maybe you can improve upon some things you might already be doing, some things to think about, and then happy to take some questions as well at the end. So just a quick overview on the agenda here. We're going to cover, just some basic things to think about, tax and retirement optimization strategies, the investment strategies within your portfolio, a little bit of what we'll call paperwork cleanup, and then most importantly, what we often help a lot of folks with is that goal organization. So the basics. So this is all revolves around building that strong financial foundation. These are things that we often talk to folks about every year, as key things that you always want to be thinking about. So if we've worked with you and put together a financial plan for you, you might have heard us sort of repeating this, but the first thing that we often encourage folks to do is just review your net worth. So all net worth is looking at your total assets minus your total liabilities. So calculate that, take a look and say, okay, where am I and how's that progress to last year at this time? And sort of you can start to chart that along the way to see what type of progress that you're making as you start to pay down debt and accumulate savings and overall net worth and wealth moving forward. The second item is often one of the most important things that we talk to folks about, but this is updating your budget. I'll sort of tongue-in-cheek say if you don't have a budget, that would be a great place to start. But if you do, it's taking a look and making sure that any changes in your lifestyle for 2026 or things that have come into place, within the last few months that you're anticipating for this year, make sure that you're adjusting for inflation and any shifts in that lifestyle, to adjust that budget. Those monthly categories that you have, that you're spending for, reflect the new prices. If there's increases, I just got a couple of emails, on some increases on some subscriptions and things. So make sure you're updating that to properly reflect what you're spending on a monthly basis. Again, as a plug, if you don't have that sort of monthly budget in place, certainly that's something we can show you how you can best maybe attack that and sort of create that. The third thing in the basics category is check that emergency fund. So again, your emergency fund is what we would term, that short-term accessible cash. And the rule of thumb on that from our perspective is 3 to 6 months of expenses in that high yield savings account. If you're married, both dual incomes, 3 months is generally, sort of the minimum, 6 months if you're single, or if you're on one income there. With the shifting of interest rates that we're seeing right now in the overall marketplace, it's a great time too to just make sure that those sort of high yield savings accounts, that your rates are still competitive with the local bank or financial institution that you're with. If you're under 1%, probably time to start shopping that around. And again, those are things that we can also help you kind of look into and investigate. But again, that emergency fund is one of the important foundations, for your financial life here going forward. So the tax and retirement strategies. So these are, ways that we want to make sure to maximize free money and advantages that you have available to you. So even though it's 2026, that first item there, max out 2025 contributions. You usually have until you file your taxes or the tax deadline of April 15th of 2026 to contribute to those Roth or traditional IRAs for 2025. So that's a great opportunity that if you haven't taken advantage of that, certainly you still have a little bit of a runway here to doing so. You also want to adjust your 401k and 403b elective deferrals. So there's been an update. The IRS has actually announced higher contribution limits here for 2026. So if you are looking to max out and take advantage of those higher contribution limits, it's a great time to take a look at that and make sure that your paycheck deductions are adjusted accordingly. There is a new caveat as well. So if you're in a higher income earning bracket, the IRS terms that as over 150,000, and you're in that 50 and over category. There is a new rule around catch-up contributions. So again, traditional 401k deferral limits have increased to about 24,500 this year. You've got catch-up contributions that you can do if you're over the age of 50. However, if you make it in that elevated category of 150,000 or more, those contributions do need to be done as Roth. So those are some key things that you want to be thinking about here as you take a look at your savings as strategies for 2026 inside those employer-sponsored plans. And then if you have a health savings account, so if you have a high deductible health saving plan, treat that HSA like a secondary sort of retirement account. You can max it out if possible, invest that balance. A lot of those different types of HSA carriers and plans allow you to actually invest that into the market to afford growth inside those accounts. It grows tax deferred. And then again, as you take that out for those qualified medical expenses, like in retirement example, it's all tax free from that distribution standpoint, for those expenses, medical expenses. So, we do encourage folks to think about that. If you have that high deductible plan, make sure you're saving in there. Sometimes employers even offer a little bit of a kickstart to some of those plans as well. So make sure you're exploring that with your employer. It's a great time here in the new year to make sure that you're reviewing that investment strategy. So, don't just what we'll have in quotes here, set it and forget it forever. With the way that the overall equity markets have performed over the last couple of years, it's a great time to sort of rebalance the portfolio and take a look at winners versus losers, and you might be overweight inside your portfolio more so than you might really be anticipating. And the reason being is the equity markets have performed really well, which has done great in terms of driving account balances higher. But this is a great time to maybe sell off some of those winners in terms of the equities, buy into some of the underperforming sectors that you might have, or rebalance to that target allocation to equities versus bonds. Again, if we're currently working with you here, this is something that we're actively doing for you based on your personalized investment policy that we put together on those annual reviews, making sure that we're keeping you inside those target allocations. But this is a great time for any of those outside accounts that you might have, or if we're not currently working with you on an advisory capacity, to take a look at the portfolio and make sure that it still aligns with what your risk profile is, and making sure that it's kind of working you towards that sort of long-term goals that you might have. The next one here is probably one of the most important things that sometimes gets overlooked, but it's a great sort of thing to do every year, once a year. Check those beneficiaries on those different types of accounts. It takes just a couple of minutes, but ensure that those accounts that you have, 401ks, life insurance, those are some of the bigger ones, have the correct names of beneficiaries. Those sort of retirement accounts, life insurance, you can bypass probate if they're termed correctly in terms of who the beneficiaries are. And 401ks are one of the most often overlooked in terms of naming beneficiaries. And what we would advise you in those instances Naming a direct beneficiary, so a spouse, significant other, family member, that money then in those retirement accounts passes outside of probate directly to that individual. What we will give you a little bit of advice on as well is if you have minor children, we do advise that, especially in the state of Connecticut and some of the local surrounding states, you don't name minor children as direct beneficiaries for those retirement accounts. Reason being is there's often a lot of high costs that are associated with it, through the court process when you name a minor child the beneficiary of a retirement account. So in that instance, you'd want to think about, okay, who are you with inside the family or friends, et cetera, that would be responsible for caring for that minor child in the event that something happens to you and your spouse, et cetera. They might be a better person to sort of name in that instance there as a direct beneficiary. So the paperwork cleanup. So this is all about organizing and streamlining of those different financial documents that you have. So credit reports. We always encourage people to think about downloading a free credit report. Check for errors, accounts that you didn't open. This is one of the things that unfortunately in today's day and age, we're seeing far too often that there's accounts that might get opened that aren't in your name. You can get a free annual report from annualcreditreport.com. So it's a great place to go to sort of do that once a year, just sort of check what that credit rating, credit score is. And again, making sure that those accounts that are listed there are all ones that you had your hand in opening. The next one here is probably one of the biggest ones that we see right now, but subscription purge. So go through those credit card statements, go through, those sort of automated distributions or withdrawals that are coming out of, bank accounts, et cetera, and look for those, we'll call them zombie subscriptions, but any sort of subscriptions that you didn't use in the fourth quarter. I even say, the third quarter, fourth quarter of the previous year. If you haven't used it in 6 months, you probably don't need it. This is also very helpful. I was just talking with a client the other day, had 2 Paramount Plus subscriptions, one under his email, one under his wife's email. Great opportunity to sort of consolidate that. We don't need to be paying, $12 a month on 2 accounts, 2 Paramount Plus. They're making plenty of money on that. But it may not be a huge substantial savings, but it is an opportunity to sort of streamline and say, okay, hey, if we're saving an extra 12, 15, $20 a month based on subscriptions that we're not using, that's all additive to, the overall financial picture in the future. The last one here is that insurance audit. So, call the providers, and this is for your homeowners or auto insurance. And it never hurts to just get a new quote and take a look at sort of what the competitive rates are that are out there. Sometimes you can get your current provider to lower some of the premiums. What I will say is recently what we've seen from a lot of insurance companies, at least in the local areas, that they're not as willing in the past as they had been to lower premiums. But that's where it's could be helpful to take a look. Certainly independent agents are great, or just calling around or quoting it on your own, looking to see if there's an opportunity to save on some of those insurance premiums that you have. We know it's a necessary evil to ensure, those important things in our lives like that. But a great way to try and make sure that you're being the most efficient in terms of what you're spending for the coverage that you have. Sometimes it's even just increasing your deductibles slightly might be able to get you a little bit of a lower monthly output in terms of the premiums that you have. The last thing here that we'll touch on is goal organization. So this is really where we at Thimble Island Private Wealth, if we're working with you, you're probably familiar with this and what we're going to talk a little bit about. But if you're not, this is something that we would love to kind of sit down and talk with you a little bit more about. But engaging with a financial professional to help create a plan. Plans are great because what it does is it takes sort of those goals, those ideas, those strategies that you have, puts it down on paper. People are far more successful when you have things written down and you're able to track your progress and things that you're trying to do. They're much more successful in achieving those longer term and short term types of goals, and specifically those financial types of strategies. So, it makes it easier to review it year to year, to track that progress, and to keep yourself honest in terms of, okay, am I being honest with what my monthly budget is or what the monthly spend is? Are there ways that, and I can identify that I can cut some things out of my life that might enable me to save a little bit more to achieve some of those longer term goals? The technology enabled planning opportunities. So I'm going to share my screen here in a second, but we have the access to different types of software programs, like Money Guide Pro, that actually enables you to track your progress by linking outside accounts, track spending, review your entire investment portfolio all in one place. And so what I have up here on the screen now that I'm going to pop up is just a snapshot of what our financial, what we call hub, looks like for a client. And this is where, again, it's all about organization and giving you the opportunity to be able to track everything in one place. What this is we call this the snapshot. But here on the main page, you see, okay, we put some goals together. So here are some of the upcoming goals, and this is college could be on here, retirement, buying a new car, a new home, whatever it may be. We'll give you a snapshot of the upcoming goals, the years that they're going to be coming, and the expenses that are going to be related. And then this probability of success meter up here, this is just showing you, okay, based on everything that we're doing, meaning savings, investments, things that we've entered into this software, how are we progressing towards achieving those goals? What we really would like to see is in the 70+% range, to be confident that, hey, our strategies will help us and carry us through. And if we're not, we can help you identify some different ways to maybe improve that outcome in the future. But again, some of the things that we touched on, net worth. So tracking that net worth, these types of softwares give you this sort of snapshot right up front. And it shows you, okay, what's our current allocation look like from all of the portfolios that we've linked? And this software actually affords you the opportunity to link outside types of accounts. And this can be anything from your 401k to bank accounts to credit cards. So that kind of comment before that, if you have a budget, make sure you're updating it, reflecting for the new year. If you don't have a budget, so let's talk, because we can help you create that by linking some of those accounts to look at expense and income. And then there's actually a way that it will help you create that budget for you automatically based on pulling in a lot of the data through the software. It also will help you track, okay, what's my planned savings and where am I saving it to? Is there employer contributions that are moving in? It would take an insurance policy inventory, taking a look, and then much more detailed planning and what we'll call sort of adjustments that you can make on your end. This is an interactive software, so you can make changes to the plan, stress test current scenarios, take a look and say, okay, well, what if I saved $100 more a month or $200 more a month? How does that impact my longer term goals? This is a great opportunity to be able to do that. And it's all done automatically for you. It does take a little bit of work on the front end to kind of talk and put those goals down on paper, take a look and do an inventory of the investment assets that you have and some of the savings that you're doing. But again, once it's sort of put together and set, it becomes much more easy to sort of year over year track that progress, and again make any adjustments that you might have to that sort of going forward. So that was one of the things I wanted to share with you, just a quick look at what that looks like, from the perspective here that we can help you with some of that technology enabled planning software. So I know went through that a little bit quick there, but would be happy to open it up for any additional questions that you might have as it pertains to any of the topics that we discussed. Or again, if you'd like and you wanted to engage with us to talk a little bit more about this, we're located right in Branford, Connecticut. Contact information there for you, and we'll be sending you a follow-up email as well. So you have an opportunity to be able to get in contact with us that way as well. So with that, Brian, we'll open it up if there's any questions out there. And I think to ask a question, you might be able to either just raise your hand and we'll be able to unmute you on the software there. And it doesn't look like there's any questions out there, so no worries. But again, if there are additional questions you're not comfortable asking here in front of the group, certainly give us a shout. We're happy to help in any way that we can. And with that, I won't take up any more of your time today, but certainly do appreciate you all for joining us here for the third installment of our Financial Fridays webinar here, and be on the lookout for next month. We'll have that invitation coming out here in just a couple of weeks there. So again, I really do appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with you all today, and hopefully you found a little bit of valuable information there. So thank you again, and have a great rest of the day.